Aren't we blessed? I mean, let's face it, if you're watching this video, you're probably in a safe place. You have the opportunity to buy or run a business as you want to. Probably got food in the fridge, kids are relatively happy. I can almost guarantee that everyone with a little bit more money. But apart from that, we're doing okay. And the only time that really changes is when we talk in terms of like pressure points, when someone sticks a finger in right between those, that second and third rib and pushes really hard and you start to really notice it and nothing else. Or, another example is they say, people don't care what's happening in the world if you've got a toothache. So you may have a toothache and everything else becomes out of context almost. There's nothing more important than that toothache. And that would be what we class like a small, tough time. I'm going to talk now about reality. And I want to probably share with you openly some of the tough times that I've had, particularly the very recent ones. Not so I can have a poor Peter party, but so you can understand that you're probably not on your lonesome with some of the chronic type issues that you've got to try and work with. And I want to share with you how I got through them and hopefully the result that we have on them. Because life isn't about fairy tale endings, it isn't about a bed of roses. There are tough times. You can get lots of sayings like, tough times don't last, but, tough people do. And, the tough times will finish. I go along the lines of, times are going to be tough and you'll get through them, but they will change you. And it's quite often the change that occurs while you're having a tough time that really makes the difference. All right, let's have a look at my last 9 months, being honest, has been very, very tough for various different reasons, and I'll share them shortly. But I remember I was talking to a friend of mine. He says, "How you going, Pete?" I said, "Oh, mate, it's really tough." I was actually ready to open up and explain a little bit, try and get a little bit of camaraderie. And all I got is, "Yeah, we're all doing it tough. Did you watch the football on the weekend? Blah 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 blah." And I thought, wow, that feels like being slapped in the face with a cold fish. But yeah, he had a point that is right. And when I look around, depending on the economy and where you are, everyone does have a period of time when they're doing it tough. And being generally conservative people, we've always got something going on because we have very busy worlds. You may have 10 things going on in your life, your job, your marriage, your kids, your investments, your property, your sporting team. And we generally aren't happy unless all 10 of those things are doing great. It's like the juggler, with all the balls in the air. If he drops one ball, he's not happy. And that is one of the challenges that I found that I have. I have a lot of elements in my life. Things like when I'm playing chess well, I'm feeling happy. If there's money in the bank, I'm feeling happy. If there's something offline, like maybe my business is quiet, then I'm sort of not happy. So the first thing we need to recognize is we have so many elements that we measure our life by. But quite often, if one of those is out of kilter, we feel a little bit unhappy, for want of words. Now, I'm not belittling those situations. And look, in the last 9 months, so we're talking a seriously long period of time, it has been really tough for me and my family. We run a commercial real estate business. And whilst we're growing and we're profitable, we're like any other business that's new, and cash flow is a problem. And we have been really tight. Now, it depends obviously when you watch this video, and I won't go too much into detail, but let me explain how tight is. Tight is in, we have like 10 or 20 bucks quite often in the bank account. Whoa, that starts to make things really hard. I mean, I remember one day I spoke to my wife and said that I was reading something on Dick Smith. For those of you who may not have been familiar with Dick Smith was an entrepreneur in the 80s. Sorry, I probably need to talk more about Elon Musk and the likes of that. But actually, Elon Musk has a similar story. So it's just a generational sort of aspect. Now, Dick Smith was very famous. He had Dick Smith Electronics, which he sold to Woolworths for an absolute fortune. He had Australian Geographic. He had like line of foods which were sold in Woolworths and big retailers. So it's a tremendous success. He was also a world record beating helicopter pilot. I had to think about how we worked it out. So he did some tremendously challenges, particularly in long voyages with a helicopter, set all sorts of records. I remember reading one day that it said he'd been bankrupt 7 times before he made it big. I shared that with my wife. I said, "Wow, honey, Tricky Dicky here. He's been bankrupt 7 times." And my wife is just wonderful. I love her dearly. She just looks at me, says, "Amateur, how many times have you been bankrupt?" All right. So leave me a comment if you've got a wonderful wife who loves you, but also make sure that you're never going to rise too high in the stratosphere of ego. Now, just for the record, we have been broke many times, but thankfully I hadn't been bankrupt. I would say I've been technically bankrupt many times. So what does technically bankrupt mean? Okay, that means I don't have the money, but the people I owe money to don't know I don't have the money. They're just waiting to be paid. And I'm just waiting for cash flow to come through. And that's normal. I mean, let's face it, 90% of the world is just waiting on the next paycheck so they can pay last week's bills. Yep. So that put some incredible pressure on us. We got to the stage that even my neighbors were looking to take me to court to sue me for money that I hadn't been able to afford to pay for the building. So this is real, probably shouldn't be shared on social media, as I say, but I want to let you know that there are tough times. And I'm a pretty upbeat person, but you'll find that every upbeat person, every middle beat person, and every low beat person is going to go through tough times. So, what did I do to get through them? All right, why were we able to get through that 9 month period? So 9 months is a long time to be struggling in like I say, in struggle city. The first thing that I had is, I'm just looking through my notes to make sure I haven't missed anything. The first thing I had is, surprisingly, I had a lot of confidence in that time. I knew we'd get through it. Why did I feel that I knew we'd get through it as opposed to I'd feel to get through it and I'd hope to get through it? There's a difference. Being a man of faith, I prayed a lot. And quite often I would say, Lord, there's nothing happening in this business. And an hour later, the phone would ring. It'd be a new client. It'd be a new prospective buyer. It would run along those lines. And I'm talking probably 3 or 4 times that happened. So I knew internally that I was doing what God wanted, when God wanted me to do it, how He wanted me to do it. Couldn't really say why, because it wasn't to get rich and be able to buy a corporate jet. He obviously had other plans. So that was one of the aspects that I had. And along that line, I also had confidence that this business is good. The fundamentals were strong. It was going to produce the results that I wanted, not only from a financial point of view, but from a lifestyle point of view. And from most importantly, from a customer point of view, I was helping the people I wanted to help. I was helping buyers, I was helping sellers, I was making the world a better place if you want to be altruistic. But I have a prayer each morning, as I mentioned, often on my channel. I say, God, put me in front of the people you want me to help today, and then help me to help them. Because quite often I'll be in front of people and they have a problem. I'm like, oh, I haven't seen this before. I wonder how I'm going to handle this one for you. And he has repeatedly gone through and shown me that. So I had confidence in the business that it was going to work. I really went with a view of my business was almost like a farmer's paddock. You can be sitting there saying, I really need to get those crops harvested and money in. And you can scream all you want and you can rant and rave all you want, but that corn or that wheat, it ain't going to grow any faster. You ain't going to be able to harvest that any faster. A lot of businesses are like that. It's not a matter of putting out a Facebook ad and suddenly you get more customers. Yeah, I'm lucky to pick up maybe 4 to 6 sales a year. So and so, and they don't spread out evenly. It's like I've got probably 2 sales coming up at the end of this month, and then I've got two more the following month. That's almost a year's worth of work. But it doesn't get spread over the year. So my wife has the wonderful challenge of managing budget. It's sort of like, here you go, honey, here's a commission check. And she'll say, and when's the next one coming? Oh, I don't know, a month, 2 months, 4 months, 6 months. So yeah, the challenge for her is to manage the household budget, and she does a great job. And that's probably another big aspect that I've had over the last 9 months. Could not have done it without my wife. So make sure you've got someone that you can share these journeys with. Yeah. It changes you, it develops you. I mean, we've grown a lot stronger. This is not the first time it's been tough, but it's probably been the toughest time that we've had. Okay, what else have I seen? So, what else has kept me confident? I could see the contracts coming. I could see the progress through the steps of various accounts. It was heartbreaking seeing some of the big, particularly the big ones, some of them fall over. I had one that fell over on settlement day. That almost had me in the corner crying. I'm sorry. I'm an Aussie bloke. I don't cry often. That one nearly had me in tears. That was just a shocker. Seeing progress in the business, like I said, I understood the fundamentals of the business. Seeing progress in the business enabled me to keep going. And it really is a challenge to keep going, especially when you don't know when the end is going to be changing. And the philosophy that I had is I almost went day by day. It was very much in the prayer. Thank you, God, for getting me through yesterday, and I know you're going to get me through today. And suddenly you look back, and it's like, wow, it's been 3 months. God's got me through. It's been 6 months. It's got me through 9 months, and He still got me through. Yeah. And if I look back 9 months and say this is the future that you got, I would have said, "There's no way I'm going to get through that period." Now, I remember, can't even remember who it is that said it. They said, "Don't worry about money. Just spend it because it'll always come more. There's always be something to replace it." That probably is a good philosophy. I've not been brave enough to challenge it. I always like to make sure I've got something in there to at least pay for the fuel, or make sure we've got enough money to put food in the fridge. But depends on your philosophy in life. But I'm of the understanding that God will take care of things, but it will be in His time. I'd love these contracts to come through, just like a farmer would love to be able to harvest sooner. But God's got His plan. Tide comes in when the tide comes in. The tide goes out when the tide goes out. Moon rises, sun rises, Earth spins. Everything's in God's time, and you can be frustrated trying to change time, but you're much better off just learning to accept it and work with it. All right. So, is am I able to share you a fairy tale ending? Has Struggle City finished? Have I become one of those super gurus that has multi-million dollars in the bank? Look, it's not. I can see the light at the tunnel. Like I said, in 11 days, I have to have not one but two settlements on the same day. That will take an incredible amount of pressure out of my budget. And the budget right now is, like I said, if you got that toothache, it overrides everything else. When I get that budget right, am I going to be happy with everything in life? Look, I'm human. I'm probably going to find that my chest sucks or my football team is losing terribly. And if you're a Gold Coast Titans fan, you probably know exactly what I mean by your football team just plays terribly a long time. But get through there. You can take it one day at a time is an aspect. If you've got someone close to get with you, your partner or even your parents sometimes. We were lucky we had family and friends who basically gave us credit cards to run with, or debit cards. That's probably one other thing that's changed. This really tough time has let me understand who our friends really are, and who are the ones that will give you money without any questions, as opposed to those who are sort of saying, well, it's your own fault. Why are you where you should be? And, why aren't you doing this? And why aren't you doing a second job? I said, well, the second job's fine. Might make $20 an hour, but, that ain't going to solve my problem. And if anything, it's going to take me away from the real solution, which is getting the business to continue to grow, to continue to develop. What I've got is not unusual, and quite often, whatever tough time you've got is not unusual, but it still hurts. But take one day at a time, pray lots, read your Bible, stay close to God, stay close to someone else, make sure your fundamentals are there, and just keep tracking through, and you're going to get through. Leave me a comment if you want a prayer, if you've got a hard time. I'm always happy to pray for my clients. And otherwise, look, there's one thing that might be struggling for you. Try to keep it in balance. Take it one day at a time. Get through it. Take care and God bless.